Namaste, my name is Samho. I recently just graduated from the University of Glasgow in Scotland with a degree in economics. I moved to Kathmandu around about 3 weeks ago to begin my internship here at NRS. I've been working in the finance department here, and today what we'll be talking about is the challenges faced by financial consulting firms in Nepal and the responses to these challenges. What we're talking about today is the challenges faced by Nepalese financial consulting firms and the solutions they have to these challenges. First, what we'll do is identify what the different characteristics of Nepalese consultancy firms are. So what tends to be the case with consultancy firms in less developed countries is that there are a few large firms which dominate the market with many smaller firms which compete quite heavily. Another characteristic is that financial consulting firms tend to work with local clients rather than international, in order for them to get past the language barriers and cultural difference that might be present. Thirdly, the companies themselves tend to be smaller, and one of the main characteristics of these is that they're able to tailor their services to the clients more than a larger firm would. And finally, the clients themselves will be smaller. So because of these different characteristics, in comparison to a more developed country, the challenges that will be faced by Nepalese consulting firms will be different from that within a more developed country. Okay, so next what we'll talk about is what a financial consulting company actually does. So what they do is they provide guidance to both individuals and companies on different sort of financial services that they offer. These can be things like financial planning, auditing, or tax services as well. So next what we'll talk about is the main challenges that affect financial consulting companies across these different services that they offer. So firstly, one of the problems that they face is acquiring employees who have the expertise and education to carry out the services that they're looking to offer their clients. This comes down to a couple of factors, one of which is the poor education that tends to be present in less developed country. In addition to this, there's also the lack of resources to pay high salaries to employees means that it's more difficult. So a second reason for this is because of the increasing numbers of Nepalese students who are carrying out education abroad, it becomes increasingly difficult for Nepalese firms to get employees with the expertise they're looking for due to them finding work after their studies. The second challenge that financial consulting firms face is the uncertainty regarding revenue. This is due to the nature of the consultancy business in general, because revenue streams tend to come from client approaches. If there's times where there's not many client approaches, then revenue streams will also be lower. So because of this, especially smaller companies will struggle to offer higher salaries that are demanded by well-educated individuals who are looking to find employment. Okay, so the third challenge they face is the competitiveness of the market. So like we said, because in less developed countries there tends to be a few large firms which dominate the market, and then many smaller firms which tend to sort of compete quite heavily. Because of this, there's a lot of competition between the different firms, and meaning they have to distinguish themselves from each other. This becomes increasingly difficult with the number of new entrants that come in, where firms have to think of new ways that they can differ themselves from the competition in order to gain an edge and get as many clients as possible. The fourth challenge they have is the compliance with the changing regulations within the country. So this is both an external and an internal problem for financial consulting companies. So there's an internal problem having the staff and resources who are kept updated and educated on the new compliance regulations that are being put in place, and also an external problem of carrying out financial services for clients whilst trying to keep in compliance with the different regulations that are often changing. For example, in Nepal, IFRS was implemented in 2013, which has been quite a difficult regulation to adjust to for many financial consulting companies. So next what we'll be talking about is what are the solutions that financial consulting companies come up with to deal with these challenges. One of the ways that financial consulting companies will deal with the challenge of acquiring educated employees is through the use of international and local internship programs. So now we'll look at what some of the benefits of these are. Some of the benefits that these internship programs have is that it provides companies with access to staff who are either going through or have already completed higher education and have some skills and expertise that they can offer which will benefit the company. Also, secondly, there's sort of spillovers within the company for knowledge spillovers working both ways. And finally, there's also benefits to the intern. So because of the benefits to the intern, there's usually quite high demand for these internship programs. From the intern's point of view, it's a way for them to further their career either by getting a foot in the door of a company they want to work for in the future, or by getting experience that they can use to further their career. Internship programs are used very heavily by financial consulting firms in Nepal. So similarly to the previous point, one of the solutions to the uncertainty of revenue streams that financial consulting firms face is the use of internship programs again. So one of the main benefits of this is that they're low cost. This means that when financial consulting firms are experiencing periods where they have low clients and low revenue, they don't have to worry about paying high salaries to staff. It also does give, like we mentioned before, access to educated employees, which is beneficial for the company. One of the main downsides of this, though, is that an intern is nowhere near as valuable as a full employee who has more expertise and more education, specifically within the industry. So in response to the competitiveness of the market, some of the solutions that financial consulting firms employ is mainly to distinguish themselves from the competition. So they can do this in several ways. One of the ways in which they can do this is through the use of blogs. So what blogs do is they allow the company to provide sort of information and a personality to the company, which is where they're able to differ themselves from the competition. Additionally, there's other benefits of blogs, such as search engine optimization, which tends to increase traffic to a company's website. Another way in which companies deal with the competition is through social media marketing. So things like Facebook and Instagram ads, companies are able to target certain demographics that they're aiming for in order to gain business from particular parts of the market. Another way in which companies deal with the competitiveness of the market is through the emphasis on tailored consulting services. So because in Nepal these consulting firms tend to be smaller, it means they're able to tailor the services to their clients more, which is something they tend to emphasize when promoting their business. So one of the downsides of trying to differ yourself from the competition is that there tends to be a lot of imitation between firms in Nepal. So once one sort of strategy is employed by one company, it tends to be adopted by another, which makes the impact of it a lot less, and it becomes a lot less influential in trying to differ themselves from the competition. Although it may be difficult for financial consulting companies in Nepal to attract and retain foreign employees, it's becoming more common for Nepalese students to study abroad, which leaves the opportunity for Nepalese consulting firms to hire these students when they're coming back from their studies, even if there is a high number of Nepalese students studying abroad and then remaining to work abroad. From what we've discussed, it's evident that there are a multitude of challenges that financial consulting firms in Nepal face. But additionally, there's plenty of solutions that they can use to combat these challenges. For example, human resourcing, hiring both international and local interns and employees, as well as adopting a strategy that helps them to differentiate themselves from the competition, means they can combat these challenges and overcome them. Haritinu Vayokuma Danyuba.